I was gaining more steam and getting more leads and had a few clients that were on their way into the practice. And then my son had a stroke. He had started having seizures in the hospital 24 hours after he was born. Terrifying. So now my shift is from carving out a piece of the practice and leaving within the next 6 months to a year to how am I going to learn to be a mom to a special needs child?
She just sold her company. She sat in a room full of men negotiating the biggest deal of her lifetime. Wait, she sold for how much? I can't even believe she managed to get double her valuation. Let's keep this just between us.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Exit Whisperer. I am your resident Exit Whisperer, Carrie Kerpen, and I am here today with a great guest. Have you ever felt stuck? Like really, really stuck? Like you can't get out of a jam? When I was listening to Nicole Meihofer, our next guest, who is the founder and CEO of Pearlvest Capital, I was imagining that exact feeling. She just had a baby that had a massive stroke. She had no idea how damaging that stroke would be. And she had a business partner who sort of, and this is my words, not hers, gave her the ick. Like she started to get some feelings that things might not be going the way she wanted them to go. What could she do? She's in a spot where she has a kid who could be extremely, extremely sick. And so she needs some security, but also there's the ick. So I want you to picture yourself in that spot and then hear what this amazing warrior did and how she built up her next act and exited that business and headed out on her own into something new and incredible and inspiring. Take a listen. Before I introduce her, by the way, I want to read this brief disclaimer. So get ready. Nicole Meihofer is an investment professional registered with IHT Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. The opinions expressed are solely those of the author and her wealth management firm, Pearlvest Capital, and do not represent those of IHT Wealth LLC or any of its affiliates, and is for informational purposes only. With that, here's Nicole. Welcome, Nicole, to the show.
Thank you. This is so fun to be here.
I am so excited to have you here because I don't think I have ever covered someone like you on the show. So like your story with your partner and then restarting your own thing, like it's really, really interesting. So talk to me about how you first got your start. Okay. So like pre all of it, like how did it start for you?
Yeah. So I started working in wealth management in the high net worth office at Merrill Lynch, which was so cool because I had a front row seat to how the ultra high net worth, the ultra wealthy manage their life, their investments, family dynamics, all of it.
Quick question for you. What is considered ultra high net worth, just for our listeners so they know? Like how much is it? Is it 10 million in net worth, 20 million? What is it?
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific definition, but I would say 15 million to over 100 million.
Oh my God. So you have exposure to this. This real.
Yes. I saw businesses being sold for more than $100 million. I saw businesses being created. I saw, clients who were multiple generations into being stewards of the wealth. For example, just to give you an idea of the world I was in, one of our clients sold his business for more than $125 million.
Wow.
So I was there from he sold it to we were involved in the financial planning to seeing the investment strategy being deployed to seeing how the philanthropic components came to fruition and then how he handled the conversations with his family because he had young kids and just got to be a really cool part of that. And that's one of many stories. So it's just exciting, and too, I was on Wall Street. Like we had CNBC up on the TVs watching it every day. It was great.
And this is early in your career. It was early in your career. So what an opportunity.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So I was really doing financial planning, but I had some friends at Merrill Lynch and we all, at a point, we got to looking around and said, there's really no advisors that we aspire to be. there weren't really a lot of advisors that looked like us. I'm a woman, he's a minority. We thought, let's create something that we're able to give the same level of service and access to investments that you get if you're a client of Merrill Lynch, but can't get access to being a client of Merrill Lynch. And let's take it and be able to serve people that look like us.
Okay,
so that's when we started.
The two of you decide you're going to go out on your own. Does that mean, just for people who are not finance savvy, that means you're going to become like an RIA? You're going to be an independent? Okay, so you're leaving the big group and you're going to start your own. You're going to become a registered independent agent. Here you go. You're going to start a wealth management practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were a few iterations of the practice. So it did take a few years for us to finalize what the long-term business ended up being. But we sat, and at that time, it was becoming popular. It was just starting to gain momentum to leave the big broker dealers as advisors and go independent and create a more open structure firm. And so that's what we did, is we left and we became independent advisors.
Oh my gosh. And so when was that? That was 2018?
2018.
Okay. All right. So how does that go when it first starts? And at what point do you realize that maybe you need a change?
So from the start, it was a little touch and go, because the independent world is very different. At Merrill Lynch, you have this huge support system. I mean, we could pick up the phone and call people. Now we're creating it ourselves. I also was the chief operating officer of the firm from the beginning. So I now had to learn how to build an RIA. And so the first few years were a little touch and go. We really didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But the good thing is, the consistent through all of this was our clients came with, they were happy. They didn't know what was going on behind the scenes.
Right.
And at the same time, like, we were finding all these incredible investment solutions and getting access to private investments. So eventually over time, we settled and really started to niche and figure out who our clients were and what the next chapter was going to look like for the firm.
And so you're building, you're growing. What starts to happen that causes you to think that maybe this isn't the path you want to be on?
Once we niched and started to grow, we really landed, we helped a variety of clients, but we actually started helping, for the most part, professional athletes and exonerees.
Oh.
So we created this incredible network of clients and professional partners. And because my business partner, he had been a professional soccer player for a short stint, I was an athlete. So working with professional athletes like NFL, NBA, NHL was a natural movement for us. But then exonerees, my business partner was introduced to one, and the stories. So for people that don't know what exonerees are.
Yeah, I'm going to say, explain it, because I have an idea, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. So exonerees are individuals that get wrongfully convicted of a crime. And a lot of times they spend sometimes decades behind bars as innocent people.
Oh my.
And then through working, a legal team will pro bono help them get out of the situation and, go to bat for them. And they'll uncover that, the police officer planted evidence, or that the confession was coerced, or faulty eyewitness. I mean, these stories are crazy. So we really felt passionate about that work and carved a niche for ourselves. And really, we were a go-to firm for exonerees. So these are people, they get out of jail, they sue the state and the government, and they get multi-million-dollar settlements.
Wow.
And they've been in jail for a very long time. I'm going to the Verizon with a client to help him buy a phone and learn how to use the phone, because he's never used a phone before, because he's been in jail his whole life.
Oh my.
Yeah. So it was really meaningful work. I mean, we really ingrained ourselves and helped these clients. And for a while, everything was great. We were growing, we were scaling.
What happened then? Like, I know you were scaling. What happened when things started to kind of take a turn in your mind?
Yeah. My business partner started entering different ventures. So he had other businesses that he was either a partner in or started himself. And we had conversations about where we wanted to go, but we never had conversations about what would that look like from a business partnership standpoint, and what would that mean for resources with the firm. So all of a sudden, what was happening was we were growing, and then that growth sort of stalled, because my business partner was really focusing on all these other ventures. And what happened too was all of a sudden resources that were supposed to be growing the wealth management firm would be utilized, and it was growing the other companies. And how does that happen? That sounds terrible, but we would have these marketing dollars, and the marketing dollars now we had more of. So we would spend more on marketing, and there would be a marketing event. And, my business partner would say, this is going to benefit all the entities that we're involved with, including Aurelian Capital Partners. You know what? I am an optimistic person. I said, great.
I would think the same. I would say, okay,
let's
great.
Try this out.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, that never happened. And it was the same thing. This is going to benefit. It didn't. This is going to benefit. It didn't. And then in 2022 is when I really started to think I should consider going out on my own and taking the mission that we started and continuing it, because now I'm the chief operating officer. I'm doing all the operations with the firm. I'm growing the business. So my son was born in 2023. 2022 is when I thought, okay, I need to start thinking about this.
2022, you're sniffing some trouble. You're getting some whispers in your mind. 2023, you have your child. And what happens?
Yeah, he had a stroke when he was born. So between when I decided that it's time to start thinking about leaving, and then when William was born, I had done a lot of business development. So I was gaining more steam and getting more leads, and had a few clients that were on their way into the practice. And then my son had a stroke. So I thought, I'm going to have my baby. We're going to spend time together. This is going to be great. I have these new clients coming in, and in 6 months I can start really having the conversations with my partner and strategizing. But he had a massive stroke. So
after he was born? Was it right after?
So we don't know. The doctors can't tell us when he had the stroke, but he had started having seizures in the hospital 24 hours after he was born. Terrifying. And then shortly thereafter, we found out that he had a stroke. So now my shift is from, carving out a piece of the practice and leaving within the next 6 months to a year to how am I going to learn to be a mom to a special needs child?
Oh my God.
And the first year, you don't know what the effects of the stroke are going to be. It's everything from cerebral palsy to he's going to fully recover, but you don't know until he starts developing. So it's not till a year and a half where we started to see what his actual issues were going to be. And luckily, we're grateful on the scale of how bad it could be to how good it could be. He's at about 75 to 80%. So we're working on speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. So once I got to the point where I realized, okay, I understand now what it's going to mean to be able to give as a mom to my special needs child. And if you walked into the room, you would actually you would think I'm lying. This kid didn't have a massive stroke. He's doing wonderfully.
I'm so happy.
But then, thank you. During this whole time, I'm bringing in assets to the firm. So I'm increasing our assets under management and growing. And my business partner, he had other ventures, and there was client funds going to invest in some other private investments. So it was almost this neutral thing. I would bring in $2 million, and $2 million would go, that's just an example, $2 million would go out to invest
to an investment that benefited a company that he owned, which is legal.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Legal,
yeah.
but problematic.
Yeah. The problem is it would be fine. And that was our original plan and business structure, but we're then not growing.
And you're not growing anything. You're just diverting funds to another venture of his.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm picturing you now. If I'm putting myself in your shoes, I'm feeling really stuck. I have a child who had a medical event that I have no idea how it's going to turn out as I'm sitting there. I'm with a business partner where something feels off, and I'm seeing this kind of stagnation of growth because of his choices. And then you're there. When you start to decide that you want to leave, I think that you discover even more, like about the distributions, right? Can you tell me about that? You
Yeah.
have to tell our listeners about this because I
Yeah.
don't even know. I've never worked in your space, so I.
Mm.
But when I read it, I was like, "Holy cow!" Explain this.
Yeah.
Explain this next part.
Yeah. So I knew that the profits were being over distributed for a while. And how does that happen? So our business, not all wealth management firms are like this. It's kind of a mixed
Yep.
bag, but we bill in advance. So we bill quarterly in advance. So you know what your budget is, you know what your expenses are. And then if you decide to, you can distribute that excess as partnership distributions to the partners. Well, what would happen is he would make the distribution, and then the marketing dollars, our budget would be blown. We'd spend more than we had accounted for. And then what he would do is he would put money into the business. And I was a minority equity owner.
Yep.
He was the majority, so he made the decisions.
Right.
And so I had no control or say over. I mean, I did speak up, of course. The plan was to pay that back by having decreased distributions for me over time, but that just never happened. And I think he was not coming from a place of I'm purposely trying to do this to us, but he saw some really exciting opportunities in the future that he thought we can easily just pay that back in one lump sum when these things worked out. But unfortunately, the two things that he was planning on, like, they just had never worked out. So when I got to the point of exit, my capital account was like negative 20 grand.
So let me try and reframe it in a way that I understand it, and you confirm or deny. This is what I am now picturing. He's saying, Nicole, let's pull our collective profits, my majority and your majority, from this business. Like, pull it all, pull some marketing dollars, put all of it to invest in some of this new stuff, to pull it, to do whatever with it. And then it comes time when you actually sell. And because of the way he did that, because he never paid back the profits, you were in the hole by about 20K. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you finally say, I'm out. What was the moment where you knew that you were going to it was time?
I wish I could say there was a moment. There wasn't. There was multiple. It was a slow, gradual escalation. And then I guess the moment when I realized I was leaving was when I met a woman who I now am also a partner with. I have my own firm, but I'm also a partner in a practice that I'm in the process of acquiring.
Amazing.
So when I sat down with her and learned about her and her practice and what's possible, we knew instantly that there was energy between us and that there was most likely a future for us together. And that's when I said, okay, I know, I think there's a path for me and I'm ready to take it serious and make the move.
So now you're in the hole on your capital investment.
Mm-hmm.
You have a practice where I assume if you're going to separate, you want to bring over your clients. How do you negotiate out of this situation?
Yeah. So there was a lot of work that was done before having the conversation with my business partner.
Tell me.
I had to have, So first I needed to negotiate with the team that I'd be partnering with. So one of the things when I decided I was going to leave was I had two options. I could either build the RIA on my own and go fully independent.
Yep.
That means I'd be on a silo and I'd had to figure it out for myself once again.
Yep.
And having been the chief operating officer and doing that, I'm done.
Right.
I don't want
chief
to do
janitor, chief everything.
Yeah. But I also I don't want to give away my autonomy. Right. How's this going to work? So there are firms that will create the regulatory bucket for you. And then you can plug in as an advisor, you can pay them a percentage of your business. And then, they take all the compliance and all that. So I decided to go that route, which is great because they guided me through the whole process. They're like, here's how it's going to go. We're going to get all your regulatory documents in order. We're going to get you prepped to leave before you have that conversation. And in addition, because my situation was a little different and I had an operating agreement, I had two legal teams working to figure out how to do this the right way. Wow. And I actually had to sit down with clients, because there were a subset of clients that I would have liked to take more clients with me, but there were a subset that were really an easy decision to take with. And so I had to sit down with them and I had them sign release of information forms. at those conversations, I was so stressed out going into them.
Yep.
And the clients were like, oh yeah, great. We're so excited for you.
Yeah.
We get it.
Well, because it's the person, that's the thing with wealth management. It's like you really trust who you trust your money with matters. And if they trust their money with you, then they'll go with you. It's annoying to have to change, but I know that.
Yeah.
But it's awesome that you were able to do that.
I had all that figured out, because if I went into this conversation and it went bad, then I'd have to go blow this ship up and, have the legal team help me. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I had to have the conversation with my business partner, and that he was so shocked. I mean, people, I had been known as like the mom of the firm, or people come up to me and say, oh man, without you, these guys would be, out there doing whatever. Totally. Like you keep everybody in check. And I'm like, well, that's typically the role that women play when you're in these situations, but, trying to get out of it. So the conversation went really, really well. He was so shocked, but he understood, because it was about having a difference in where we wanted to go. Like he understood what was happening with the business and why it wasn't working anymore. But the hard part was negotiating down, paying back the money in the capital account. Like I never knew that you'd have to pay to exit a business. That didn't even cross my mind. I mean, what a learning experience. I negotiated him down to $5,000. And, I think I caught him at a really good time. He had like something else going well at another deal. I don't think he would have been as willing to negotiate down to $5,000 as he was in that moment.
That's pretty amazing.
Lucky there.
And I think you're right that people don't sometimes realize that, like, if you're overdrawn on that equity, like you actually will have to put money in to exit a business. Which, like, it's such an important fact. And okay, one fun fact is, so you leave and you launch Pearlvest. Tell us about Pearlvest first, and then I'm going to confirm the fun fact with you that I learned.
Yeah, so Pearlvest is a independent wealth management firm, and most of my clients fall into 3 categories. It's female entrepreneurs, millennial inheritors, and then professionals. And, I really structured my business similar to what I started at my old firm. And we go into everything. I mean, tax aware investing, estate planning strategy, legacy design. I become the CFO for my clients, really making sure that they're surrounded with the proper financial board of directors that they need. And they really go to what I learned at Merrill Lynch, working with the ultra wealthy. And I structure how I approach each client the same way. Like any client that comes in, like I'm just not putting them in an investment strategy. Like we're doing full on financial planning. They don't have an accountant. We're going to get them an accountant. And for the entrepreneurs, I do a lot of business to cash flow strategy, because entrepreneurs love to squirrel money away in their business and it's not working for them. And do, some individual 401ks and retirement planning. And then also private investments.
One of the things that I love about what you do is it's actually similar to, like you said, what you learned in the first term post Merrill is I loved, like when you had that focus with athletes and exonerees, I love the focus on millennial inheritors, because with the great wealth transfer, there's quite a few that will be coming up, and looking at the inheritors of that wealth. I think it's like such a good and interesting niche. I remember that from the first time we met. And I remember, in looking at this work and talking to you prior to this interview, I remember this wild fact. If you were to sell your firm today, just a few months in, you would receive similar proceeds than you would have if you had sold the previous business at its 7-figure valuation, because you were a minority owner of that. And this is your own. Talk to me about how that feels.
When I realized that, and I should have known that, because I love digging into the numbers, but when I realized that, it was sort of in the midst of the transition, and it just dawned on me that, like, this is nuts. I mean, that's what I thought. I go, this is nuts. I've been building this massive business, spending so much time, and like I've carved out a small portion, and I could sell today for this and get the same amount. I mean, it was just mind blowing to me,
Yeah. It's the same thing for a lot of people with when they bootstrap a business and realize that they can earn the entirety of the exit versus a small portion and have so much more control. I'm a big fan of that strategy. And I think for you, one of the other things you talked about is now talking about being on the Exit Whisperer, you're actually looking at acquiring some wealth management firms. Talk to me about how you're approaching that and what that looks like for you.
Yeah. So in wealth management, continuity and succession planning is a huge problem. And even more so, less than, I think something like 20% of financial advisors are female. So there's a huge opportunity out there. And I always said I wanted to find a female advisor who wanted to sell her practice and work with. It was, I'm a little bit manifestation as well. Like I literally said, I want to find a financial advisor who wants to sell their practice, but I also want to have my own practice and have continuity. And I found her. I was out for coffee, and a friend of mine was there. It turns out her friend's mom's a financial advisor. Who knows how this all happened, but we sat down. And so the economics are really interesting, and the stickiness of wealth management businesses, because it's relationships. So if you do it the right way, so I'm working as a partner in their practice, and we have this 3-year runway where they want a soft exit. So within the next 3 years, they want a soft exit. I would take out the loan and purchase their practice, but they would stay on for a period of time as, advisors to the practice to make sure that they are setting their clients up and us for success. Yeah. Because they've had some of these clients they've had for 30 years. They've been in the practice for 40 years. So they're all in their late 60s. They want to retire, but it's really hard to let go because some of these people have grown up with them.
Right.
But now we're also getting referrals from their kids and their, millennial inheritors. So it's really an ideal situation for me to go into. And I'm learning that it's an incredible way to also grow your business and scale your business. And that's new for me, not new, but newer. And now that I know the economics of how it works, I'm like, I want to buy more businesses. Let me get the deal done first.
It's such a good topic, Nicole. And I think it's so true that so many of us did not realize that this was an option to growing our own businesses through what we call inorganic growth, right? It's the purchase of other businesses and being able to do that. So basically the way you would do that with these practices is you take out a loan and then you pay it back through the profits of the business, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I'm so excited to really see what you do next. If we were looking at what you learned, if you would say, looking back on your whole journey, on all of it, and I'm picturing it almost going in fast forward motion. You're at Merrill Lynch, and you start this business, and then you have the baby, and then the baby has a stroke while the guy is doing some funky stuff, and then you figure it out, and you negotiate this brilliant way out, and you can negotiate down, you start your own, you acquire another business. I'm looking at it all in a fast forward train. What are the lessons that you learned from this? What do you want our listeners to know?
First one is, if you ever go into a business partnership, when you go into it, you need to plan for it to not work out. Sort of like a marriage. You may agree with prenups or you may not, but a prenup basically says, if this doesn't work out, here are the terms. And I would have, even if you don't have it documented, talk about it. If this doesn't work out, what are we going to do? Right. And also the second one is just don't be afraid to take chances. I think you don't get to where I am without knowing when the doors of opportunity open. You need to jump through them. And you also have to have a financial plan. Well, I had to throw that in.
Financial plan in what way? Towards retirement, in life, how do you approach that?
Yeah. So you have to look at, what are the safeguards I need in place so that when this doesn't follow a linear line, that I can still be on this journey. So when my son had his stroke, my husband and I had an HSA that we had been contributing to for years and didn't touch. And instead of being stressed out about taking the expenses for his care out of our cash flow, we had a pot of money that we were able to utilize. And I will forever be grateful for that, because it allowed us to instead of being stressed out about, it's expensive when you have a kid with special needs. In addition, when I knew it was time to, when I was eventually going to leave, my husband and I looked at it and said, okay, we really need to buff up our liquid cash availability.
Yeah.
Because when we make the move, I don't want to be in a situation where, we don't have a backup if he didn't let me take half the clients.
Yes.
Or it didn't work out that way.
Yes.
So you can't, I mean, I don't think you could have a financial plan and have all the vision into the future of what that's going to look like, but just have a plan and really understand your personal and business finances as much as you can and put those safeguards in place.
Nicole, I love that. You're such a gift to the show, and I'm so glad that you came on with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story, and best of luck to you, to your wonderful family, to your son, and just I'm so excited to watch Pearl Best grow.
Oh, thank you, Carrie.